Greetings, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here today do the fine, sorry, to do the final episode of my favorite 5 Led Zeppelin albums. The album we're going to be doing today is this one, Physical Graffiti. This is the double album. The only one that they did. So, what's this series about? Basically, we're just talking about my 5 favorite albums from Led Zeppelin. I've got 5 categories: favorite songs, favorite vocal part, favorite guitar solo, favorite bass part, and favorite drum fill. Plus, I'll give you some honorable mentions that this album is proliferated with lots of honorable mentions, lots of good stuff going on here. I always thought, though, that if you were to drop maybe the 5 bottom songs off this album, you'd have next to a perfect Led Zeppelin album. The top 9 or 10 songs are really good. The bottom 5, maybe not so good. They could have cut this into a single, and it would still have been a great album, I think. So we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite parts of this album. Put my glasses on so I can actually see my notes. So the album, of course, is titled Physical Graffiti. You can see that in the writing as they spread the letters out among the windows in those 2 buildings. This album cover actually reminds me of Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy. I often wonder, I can't see the album from here. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to find it. But we'll give it a little quick glance over. I don't see it, though. Often wondered if the Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy was the same album, almost the same cover, right? Anyways, 2-disc set on this one. So you've got Custard's Pie, The Rover, In My Time of Dying, Houses of the Holy, Trampled Underfoot, and Kashmir on the first disc. And then you have In the Light, Bunyar, Down by the Seaside, 10 Years Gone, Night Flight, The Wonton Song, Boogie with Stu, Black Country Women, and Sick Again on the second CD. So for me, my favorite song is probably the favorite song of just about everybody who likes this album, and that's Kashmir. I really like this song. I think it's very different. I think it's one of the best Led Zeppelin songs on one of the better albums too. So yeah, my favorite song, Kashmir. Best vocal part, though, I think is on Houses of the Holy, which is kind of unusual since they have an album called Houses of the Holy, but that song is actually on Physical Graffiti, kind of different. But I love Robert Plant's vocals on that song. I think he's absolutely knocking it out of the park. My favorite guitar solo comes from 10 Years Gone. Just the solo in that song is absolutely great. One of his best solos again. Some people think of him as being one of the great, and he is one of the great guitarists of all time, but I don't think it's his solos that really make him great. I think it's his riffing. He's come up with some of the most magical riffs of all time. His solos are great as well. He's a great guitar player, virtuoso in just about every respect, but I still think that it's his riffing that makes him the famous guy that he is. My favorite bass part is in The Rover at the beginning. Very dominant part. Really starts that song off well. That's one of the great tunes on this album too. It's just such a predominant part of that song that you can't mention it as being one of the great bass parts in an album. My favorite drum fill on this is the heavy drum fill in the back half of In My Time of Dying. Yeah, it's absolutely killer drum part in that song. As there are many on this album, but that particular one is my favorite. So some of my honorable stuff on this album, let's put it down for a second, is the heavy bass part in Custard's Pie. Really good. Lots of heavy stuff going on there. The same with the Rover. Both of those songs have just absolutely killer bass parts in them. Some very nice hooks on the Rover as well. This is really a classic, kind of belongs on FM radio type song, right? Some nice slide and distortion in the opening part of in My Time of Dying. I think that's really good. Nice guitar riffing in My Time of Dying, just absolutely killer. Drums and guitar riffed in Houses of the Holy are really good. Well, the drum fills. Heavy riffing and bass in Trampled Underfoot is another good, really heavy stuff here. The heavy melodic drum part throughout Kashmir, of course, is classic. Everybody knows it. It's one of the most dominating effects of that song. And I love the eerie part that they use with the synthesizers at the beginning of In the Light. Yeah, just some really eerie, awesome keyboard parts that I know we don't have a category for keyboards here, but absolutely that part is so good on this album. One of the best parts of the album, I think. Heavy bass and drum in the light, of course, fantastic. Some nice acoustic guitar on 10 Years Gone, and some nice riffing and drum parts on the Wonton song. So overall, this is a strong album. I would say about 9 to 10 of the 15 tracks or 14 tracks. 15 tracks on this album are killer. Other 5 kind of whining a bit, but mostly I think this is a strong album by them. It's also, in the case of this album, probably the most not listened to album by Zeppelin, because I've only had it for a couple of years. It was the only, this and The Presence were the 2 albums that I never owned until recent years. All the other ones I've owned in various forms, either vinyl or cassette or CD, some of them for lengthy times. Led Zeppelin's 2, 3, and 4, I've owned those for decades. Houses of the Holy, I had originally, now I've got it again. That one's another album that could have easily gone into this list. Certainly one of my favorites. The only Led Zeppelin album that I never really took off for me in the strongest of manners is the Led Zeppelin 1, although it does have its strong parts to the album. Overall, I never was turned on to it as much as some of the other albums, but definitely it's still a good album. It's just not as good as these other ones. So overall, the 5 albums we've done in this on this episode, or during the series, with this one being the final album for the series, Physical Graffiti. So the first episode featured Led Zeppelin 4. Second episode featured In Through the Outdoor. Third episode was Led Zeppelin 2. The fourth episode was Led Zeppelin 3. And the final episode is this one, which features Physical Graffiti. So I hope you've enjoyed this series and this episode as much as I had fun doing it. Please like and subscribe. That's much appreciated. And hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more. Any comments about any of the 5 chosen Led Zeppelin albums, you can put that down there. If you think one of the other ones should have been in there instead. A lot of people will say Led Zeppelin 1 should be in there, or even Houses of the Holy. Excellent albums. Then you can make whatever comments you want, and we will see you when I make my next series, which will be another series of alternate episodes. Haven't done one for a while. I'm going to try something a little bit different rather than rotate the vocalists to different bands. I'm just going to do 5 one-offs where I pick somebody who I think had some involvement with the group at some point, but ended up in the alternate universe, they'll all end up staying in the band, and see how that affects the music of that particular band. Anyways, I hope to see you then. So take care and have yourself a good day. Goodbye.